right, here we go. Hello, everybody. Tara Bachland here with the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism. And boy, it's fun to hear the chat behind the scenes. This is going to be a terrific class, I can tell you that, that's for sure. So, hello, everybody. Those of you who are seeing this on YouTube, this is a free preview of what happens at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism, the Herbs A to Z class. Tonight, we're covering the mints, wood betony, peppermint, and self-heal, and hyssop. And tonight, teaching, of course, we have our very own Matthew Wood, and also joined by Sean O'Donoghue, who's also a teacher at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism, which we have a great group of teachers from all sorts of interesting backgrounds and full of experience in their special realms. So you can learn about them here at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism, and clicking on faculty, you'll be able to see why and how Matthew chose these special people to accompany and help teach at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism. I'll tell you, once you hear them get rolling, you'll hear why as well. And you may have joined us last night. It was Matthew's big birthday, and also our grand reopening of the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism. So make sure to head over to the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism and check out our special offers. First of all, Matthew's new book is available for pre-order. The book is called A Shamanic Herbal, Plant Teachers and Animal Medicines by Matthew Wood. And make sure you get on our newsletter list. This is the way that you're going to be learning about the greatest offers we have going on from here on forth. Definitely stay tuned to social media, like you are seeing this on YouTube as well. You'll see impromptu events, so make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications. But especially through June, you'll want to stay tuned, because we are going to be sending out some special offers. And so the whole month of June is very, very special. Some of my favorite highlights of this brand new site, there's so many features, there are too many to mention, but my favorites are the searchable transcripts and closed captions. So closed captions are what you would expect, and it's really neat. You can search, the transcripts are available to follow along, of course, as well, but you can search the transcripts. This is especially helpful if you are studying a certain herb or ailment, or you're just reviewing the video and you're like, oh, where was it that they mentioned yarrow? You can type in yarrow into the search and it will highlight the word in yellow. And when you click on the highlighted word, it will jump to the video where that herb or whatever you're searching for is mentioned. Tremendous study tool that connects perfectly with our new site index, which is growing. Just like a book has an index at the end of the book, and maybe you're looking for to study yarrow, first aid, any kind of search term. Similarly, on the site, you look for that search term. We have hundreds and hundreds of index words you can search for. And again, it will take you to the video that mentions that search term that you're looking for. And then once you're there, you can search within the transcript to go precisely into the video where that term is mentioned. It's absolutely amazing, especially those of you who are really, really into studying the herbs, not just initially learning about the herbs. Is a tremendous study tool. And then also we have certificates available with most courses included in the price for the classes. So once you pass the test, you get multiple tries on the test. You can print out your certificate, and better yet, the certificate is not a generic certificate. It's actually specific to that course. And so it will list the specific hours, the total hours for accreditation, and also specific hours. For example, if it's Materia Medica, if it's history, and so forth. Their certificates are really beautiful and amazing and very helpful, whether you're collecting them and you just love having that certificate and feel very gratified by it, or you are collecting your hours for herbal registry or certification. And then each week we're offering a bonus for those who are signing up at the new site. This week's bonus, anyone who signs up for one of the one-year options of the library, and we have regular library, library plus A to Z, and a new professional library. Anyone who signs up for a one-year subscription will get, the first 20 will get a signed book by Matthew, The 7 Guideposts on the Spiritual Path. They will get the very famously known and coveted Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism Materia Medica plant identification cards for the year one curriculum. There's over 50 cards in that deck. So these are the physical cards, and also our very fun Forge Fun cards as well. And then anyone after that, after the first 20, anyone else who enrolls in one of the 1-year options for the libraries will receive Materia Medica cards and Forge Fun cards. This will change each week, so stay tuned. And those of you who are already subscribed to one of these options, stay tuned to your newsletter. Check out the newsletter email for important information about migrating to the new site. We've emailed you a couple times already. Always feel free to reach out to us at hello@woodherbs.com. We also have a couple of orientations scheduled. If you go to the calendar here, you can sign up for one of our orientations. One is coming up tomorrow. And you can sign up here, and we have one each week. The next one is next Friday, and so forth. So we want you to feel at home coming to this new site. So always feel free to reach out to us at hello@woodherbs.com. Join one of those orientations. The orientation, by the way, is not just going to be us showing you the site. It's going to be us listening to what your questions are and answering your questions, whether they're general or you need some one-on-one help. So that's a great resource. We're at our best pricing ever during the month of June, so make sure to grab whichever package you want during the month of June. And we've added over $2,400 in new courses to the library. So another great reason to make sure you're migrated over to the new site. New classes like the herbs for the musculoskeletal system, heart health and cardiovascular system. Also brand new to the site is Holistic Nutrition course. It's an entire course, not just a class, on nutrition, especially for herbalists. We also have a new tongue evaluation class, which I know so many of you have been excited for. Make sure to sign up for the free intro to tongue evaluation. And the next day, we're also having an intro to the endocrine system. So I'm going pretty quick here because I want to get to the class, but there's so much stuff to show you that is absolutely amazing about this site. This also will help you jump to the calendar. It highlights our new site orientation meetings, an interview we did with Matthew about his brand new book. You can still get the free Materia Medica cards. There's so much going on here, and that's why we need to make it a month-long celebration. There's so much awesome stuff going on. We don't want you to miss out. And so we will be highlighting new things each week of this month. And then last but not least, of course, Sean O'Donoghue has his own site, which is otherworldwell.com or Otherworld Well Hedge School. And check out what he has to offer there. I'm sure you'll like what he has to say here. Check out his school because his classes are absolutely, truly unique and fascinating. I highly recommend checking him out. He also has a new book coming out at the beginning of July, and maybe he'll say a few words about that if we have time as well. So thank you for spending this few minutes with me. As you can see, I'm very excited. We've been working over 14 months on this new site and all these new offerings. And so just really so excited to, like I say, not only do we want to knock your socks off, we want to knock your Birkenstocks off because this has been a labor of love, absolutely. And we want you smiling from ear to ear when you go to the site and experience what there is to experience. We're very happy for it. So those of you who are in the webinar, hello and welcome. I see many of you have already said hello and where you're from. If you haven't already, we love hearing where you're from.
Oh,
See, we already have someone from Melbourne, Australia. I totally said that wrong. Sorry about that. Mexico City. We have California. And then when you have a question for Matt or Sean, please put that in the Q&A section. That just, rather than putting it in the chat, that helps to make sure that when they're ready for questions, that we can go right to the Q&A and see them there. So let's get rolling with tonight's class, Herbs A to Z, the mints. It's not going to be basic, I can tell you. They have lots of neat stuff to share. So let's get rolling. I'll hand it over to Matt and Sean.
hi, folks. Yeah, and Sean and I, our books are coming out both in July, so we were thinking of doing a like a just talking about them together, doing a class kind of on our books or a mutual interview. And they're somewhat related themes and things too, probably quite a bit related themes. So uh And I have to say, Sean's a great writer, which there's not that many of in herbal medicine. I mean, there's lots and lots of writers, and they're good writers, but um, now that Stephen Buhner has died, we definitely have one less. But Sean, I thought it was a work of important Irish literature the last time you wrote a book. And I wasn't just making that up. I thought, oh my God, like this is up there with these, you know, almost with William Butler Yeats and stuff. So,
Thank you
so,
so much. That means so much to me. And the first two herb books that I had were your book of herbal wisdom and
uh,
Stephen's Secret Teachings of Plants,
uh,
and both
uh,
really shaped
yeah,
me profoundly. And so
uh,
that's a really great honor um, to hear you say, and always just such joy and honor to be teaching with you. And since I missed last night, belated happy birthday.
oh, thank you. Yeah, and I have to apologize. I had some clients today. I completely spaced them out. I'm still getting back on my ground. I don't know if Betsy Thomas is here. I was gonna look like she was one of the people. So at least I'm here for this class. So, okie doke. So, wood betony, we both love, I think. Wood betony is an old world plant, mint. I have seen it naturalized just very sporadically here and there. One plant in Minnesota here for my gardens, which was very exciting to me to have a plant naturalized and yet not go crazy. And so that's cool. Um, and it is, yeah, the botanical names, the traditional botanical name is Betonica officinalis. Officinalis means of the office, officinal, meaning of the apothecary, that was a very important old time drug. And in fact, there's a saying in Italian that repeated in every language. The Italians say, may you have as many virtues as Betony. And there was a physician of Julius Caesar, I think, or Augustus, who wrote in a single book on wood betony, giving 42, 44 uses like that. So that's why that saying may have gotten going. So this was an herb that was actually fairly well known at an early date. And I have to say the Greeks and the Romans were not great herbalists like the American Indians. They were, or even the Germans and Russians are better. The Greeks and Romans, the Mediterraneans, they were not quite as good generally. I don't want to generalize about everybody in the Mediterranean rim. And I don't know about the Irish. They may have been quite good too. But uh like the English were not that good. Um and you know, and they were very closely related to the Germans. So okay, not to complain about different nationalities and their knowledge of herbal medicine, but that's kind of the case there. Um, so wood betony must have grown in the Mediterranean, but it grows up to Minnesota with ease. And the flowers are excuse me, the leaves are the parts used. Oh, it was called Botanica officinalis. Then it was called Stachy. Now it's called Stachy's botanica or Stachy's officinalis. And it's just those rude botanists interrupting our centuries old fixed medical traditions. And really, there is no reason why we have to follow their nomenclature, except that the FDA insists upon it. But otherwise, we ought to be able to say botanica all we want. And I noticed in the Kew Gardens when I was there about 5 years ago or six or something that seems like only yesterday that the label said Botanica officinalis. It's like, yes, you guys are still with it. And so so we have that, and I think the word botanica is very ancient. They're not sure what the origins are. Um, may even be Celtic or something like that. I think it's a pre-Latin, it's not Greek. Yeah. Um, okay, it's a little plant about yay tall and then the flowers go a little above that and they're pretty. And then um the root actually is said to be hallucinogenic, and I still want to try this out. Because there's not very many plants from Europe that are hallucinogenic or that show up in an herb book like Maud Grieve or anywhere like that, saying, well, this plant, the roots are hallucinogenic. So I would like to see what that's all about. So we don't use that part. And so leaves when they're fresh, and they can be tinctured, they can be used as a tea, and they taste pretty good. They have a vanilla-like flavor. I don't know if they have coumarins in them. Maybe you know that. I don't know. Generally, yeah. Do you have any idea?
Not appreciably, not significantly, as
Okay,
far.
but do you think there are some maybe in there?
Could be could be traces. It doesn't really have that typical coumarin scent.
Yeah, but it is, yeah, that's true. It is kind of sweet and vanilla-like, but less so than the true coumarin plants. And there aren't many coumarins in the, if any, in the mint family. So you're giving me a reality check here. And it's not used for thinning the blood to any great extent either. So although it is used for the brain, often you got to thin the blood to get things working in the brain. So I can't think of much more for an introduction. Maybe do you want to take over and describe medicinal properties and I can catch up later on? So
Absolutely. And I'll also make a quick disambiguation, which has become important because, which is very historically interesting too, because on the West Coast, by the late 70s and early 80s, nobody was familiar with or was using Betony. And so when Michael Moore had a bunch of pedicularis in his store, and nobody had heard of pedicularis, he thought about Betony as a word that's in the old books and nobody's using the word, so I'm going to start calling pedicularis Betony. They actually have nothing to do with each other except that they both work on the nervous system.
yeah.
But if you get into the West Coast, or if you get somebody who's downline from Michael Moore, when they say Betony, they're going to mean pedicularis, which is a wonderful semi-parasitic plant that is deeply relaxing the muscular tension. And I suppose the relaxation of tension is a tangential overlap with wood betony, with what we're speaking of when we speak of wood betony. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it just purely has to do with what Michael Moore thought would sell when he put it on the label on on the jar in his store. Uh,
Oh, oh yes. Ah, wow. Well, gee, that's too bad because there's so much difference, but that's gotten into the books because I think that Bettany moniker is in Foster and Duke, which is like
right.
really a major reference thing. So uh yeah, okay, I didn't know that history. That's very interesting. Yeah, they really are different. And we barely have a pedicularis here in the East. I've seen it once, except in a state park where there was like hundreds of them. Um, but it's pretty much got to be, there's two types, I guess, one in swamps and one on upland. I've only seen the upland one. It is a wild and crazy little plant, that pedicularis. Looks like a little wizard putting spells on the people or something.
Yeah, there are actually five or six different species of it, and they each have different names based on the shape of the flower, but the medicines are all very similar,
Yeah.
although there are like slightly different personalities. The closest, the closest to Pedicularis I can think of in terms of a medicine's action is kava, but kava has that deep sedative quality, whereas Pedicularis is just purely muscle relaxant with sometimes a little bit of a bright, shimmery feeling to it,
Mm.
and profoundly muscle relaxant.
Yeah.
And we get some muscle relaxation with Takis, but I think of that as really sort of secondary, and that's probably mostly due to that strong bitterness. And we have all these bitter mints that have these strong influence on the nervous system and will release tension to some degree with wood betony and motherwort and skullcap. And when I think of wood betony, I think of it as having a particular affinity for the nerve center associated with the solar plexus that's controlling the digestion and a lot of the other like core metabolic organs.
Yeah.
And so I'll reach for it on multiple levels. And one of those, of course, that I had a pretty spacey day myself. In fact, I have been preparing for our class for months, but I forgot until yesterday that it was actually today. And it just kind of what's happening in this particular moment in time. And wood betony is actually an ideal remedy for that in a lot of ways
Yeah.
because that gut centered consciousness is what locates us in time and space in our bodies right here and now. So I think about if you've ever studied a martial art, they'll teach you to move from your core because that's bringing your attention to that nerve center so that you'll be more physically present and more physically responsive. And I feel like when that's lacking, wood betony is
Yeah.
very often what I'll reach for. And it can be lacking for all kinds of different reasons. It can be a constitutional thing that you're just sort of a up in the air kind of person. It can be that either a physical or an emotional trauma has knocked you out of yourself to a degree, and wood betony can help to bring you in. Um, it can be, yeah, it can be more of like long-term digestive issues causing and being exacerbated by a disconnection between the brain and the gut brain. And I
Yeah.
feel like wood betony becomes really the remedy I reach for there. And of course, that's also so deeply rooted in its tradition as one of the two major European plants of exorcism, the other
Yeah.
being St. John's wort.
Yeah.
And when I think of the distinction, it's like I feel like St. John's wort makes the sun of your solar plexus burn so brightly that everything else gets pushed out.
Hmm.
Whereas wood betony, I feel like draws you down into your body and anchors you there.
Yeah.
I feel like if wood betony had a motto, it would be let nothing come between me and my highest self. Because when you're not there, there's space for other things to come in. And when
Yeah.
you're there, they can't really take up the same kind of occupation. The one other place that I see sort of connected with this is in relation to the internet and the gallbladder.
Uh,
And I was trying to understand this for a long time, um, because our friend Mitch Stargrove talked
yeah.
about the connection between the gallbladder and decision making in
Mm.
Chinese medicine. And he said that since the advent of Facebook, he had been seeing more people with gallbladder problems. And he said part of that was the number of decisions people are making. That it used to be you made a certain our bodies evolved to make a certain number of decisions each day. But when you're scrolling on social media, you're making the decision about do I pay attention to this post? Do I
Mm.
like it? Do I make a smiley face? Do I make a comment? Do I share it? Etc. And all of those are decision-making processes. And I got to thinking about, oh, well, we talk about when we're making a decision, you make a gut check. And that's actually neurologically true. That whenever we're
Yeah.
deciding whether to take an action, like our brain thinks about, should I do this? And then our gut gives us information about, well, here's what's happening right here and right now that might influence your decision. And if the two are coherent, then we feel free to go ahead and make the decision. If the two are incoherent, we get incoherent. And that's really, and I think it's actually taxing on that solar plexus nerve center to be asked to run gut checks at all these little things, especially these little things that aren't actually happening in our physical world. And so that made me think about, okay, And then, so why would there be more gallbladder problems? Well, it has to do with with that enteric nervous system signaling the gallbladder and gallbladder timing. And so, in almost every gallbladder issue that I've dealt with people, with in people over the past 10 years, wood betony has been in the formula
Oh,
in order to get that signaling and timing back online. And then usually I'll have something like wild yam or maybe chamomile to sort of open up open up the duct, and then I'll have something profoundly bitter to
well,
stimulate that bile release. But there's always the wood betony in my gallbladder formula so that we can get that signaling and orientation